Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel Sains here. Um, R.I.P. Hulk Hogan. Where does one begin with a man's wrestling career who spanned decades, a man who was such a legend in the wrestling industry? I think the best place to start would be Rocky 3. And I say that because most people point to where he slammed Andre, and I wouldn't disagree with you. But I'm going to put something in contrast here. Vince McMahon Sr., who Hulk Hogan worked for, and Vince McMahon Jr. were two entirely different people. They may have had the same last name, but they were very different people. To give an example, Vince McMahon Sr., he would not have killed the territories. In fact, he let the territories borrow from him, and they let them borrow from him. It was sort of a mutual agreement. That's how it worked for them. And the one other rule Vince McMahon had, Vince McMahon Sr., I want to be very clear, was you do not break kayfabe. And you might say, well, Jewel, what the hell is kayfabe? If you are not a wrestling fan, and I grew up one, I watched the Hogan era. I watched the Four Horsemen. I watched the fucking Attitude Era. I watched the pre-Attitude Era when it was Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels carrying the fucking company on their fucking backs. Again, a WWF without Hogan at that time. Vince McMahon Sr. fires Hulk Hogan. Now, he wasn't wearing the red and yellow at the time he fired him. This was not the Hulk Hogan you and I grew up knowing, where say your prayers, take your vitamins, and that shit. Oh, no. This was somebody who, though he was on the roster, he was not exactly the biggest name on the roster at the time when he was released by Vince McMahon Sr. And you might say, wait, he was released for what? Hulk Hogan was in a movie called Rocky 3. The movie is most notoriously known for having Mr. T in it. Hulk Hogan played a man called Thunderlips. And Thunderlips, well, was a pro wrestler. So Hulk Hogan was sort of playing a variation of his ring character in a sense, because at the time, Hulk Hogan was a heel. I know most people might not remember this, but Hulk Hogan did not start off a babyface. Hulk Hogan started off a heel. He was a bad guy. But so he played this Thunderlips character, and even Hogan himself playing the character in the movie after the, scene ends with Rocky, Rocky says to him, Sylvester Stallone's character says, hey, what was the deal? And Hogan's Thunderlips says, hey, it's all part of the show. Hinting that wrestling is what? Fake. You could make the debate that Hogan broke. There's no debate. Hogan did break kayfabe in every way within this movie. And Vince McMahon wasn't happy he did. Well, I should stress again, Vince McMahon Sr. wasn't happy he did it. So he was fired. Enter Vince McMahon Jr., who buys the company from his dad. And I do want to stress, and I've talked about this with Alan Gallant, my buddies Alan Gallant, Patrick McRae, and Gordon Domowski, that if Vince Sr. had stayed in power and stayed healthy and lived a longer life, you would have probably never heard of Hulk Hogan. Vince Sr. would not have let him come back into any sort of notoriety. Vince McMahon Sr. But Vince McMahon Jr., on the other hand, well, he was all about breaking kayfabe. He was all about, in a sense, sensationalism. Because sensationalism draws what? Attention and money. So Vince hires him back. And together, the two formed the largest entity in wrestling history at that time, Hulkamania. Um, Hogan wore red and yellow. Initially, he come down to Eye of the Tiger. Real American, uh, the song Real American was not written specifically for the late Hulk Hogan, aka Terry Bollea. It was written for a different tag. It was written for a tag team. I forget who. But I watched Hogan as a kid, as many others my age did. I'm 42. Hulk Hogan, I watched the build up to Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, where Andre tore the cross that Hogan wore. They turned Andre heel, and in WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan slammed Andre. Which Hogan was big, but WrestleMania 3 launched. It made Hulk Hogan from star to megastar, and he never looked back, and he never should have. I think one of the most interesting things about the character itself is when he went back heel for the NWO, because nobody saw it coming. Nobody. There wasn't a soul on earth that saw that coming. And I mean, as a fan, give Eric Bischoff and the late Terry Bollea, aka Hulk Hogan, their due. They deserve all the credit in the world for rolling dice and hitting snake eyes, because it's rare that you capture lightning in a bottle twice with a character who's already played a good guy. But in wrestling, you have to understand something. The bigger the baby face, the better the heel, and vice versa too. You want a great example? And if you've watched my channel before, you know this is true. How about the name Barnabas Collins? Barnabas starts off as a heel. He went from a heel to the biggest babyface vampire ever. That's not done by accident. It's done because the person playing the character knows how to sell their ass off. And the late Terry Bollea did. He knew how to sell his ass off. Hulk Hogan, if you will. He knew how to sell his ass off. And when he came down at Bash at the Beach and ripped the shirt and dropped the leg on Savage, the illusion was complete. Hulk Hogan would eventually become babyface again after joining and not even the WWF. He did in WCW. When they played American Made, there was a 6-man tag match. I think Goldberg and Sting were his partners, if I'm not mistaken. I'm old. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. In all seriousness, I just want to give my deepest thoughts and sympathies to the late Hulk Hogan's family. As a wrestling fan, this man entertained millions and millions and millions. And no matter whatever Dirt Sheet says about him, you cannot take that away. You don't just do that by accident. You don't just do that by happenstance. You do it because people want to see you, whether you're good or whether you're playing a heel. They want to see the babyface go, whether the babyface is going to overcome the odds. They want to see the heel get his ass kicked. And Hulk Hogan drew crowd after crowd after crowd after crowd. And there's no debate about it. I hope you all have a lovely, lovely day.